And that's the evolution of self-leadership, is that you're going to lose your way, right? But with the right people in your corner, having these harder conversations with people who are honest and want to see you win, you will always be able to come back to the truth of who you are. What really helped me get through it is like, nobody's going to do this work the way that I'm going to do it and make you feel held and loved and seen in the way that I'm going to do it. And if you aren't willing to throw some skin in the game for 12 months or 6 months to be able to invest in that level of love, then I'm not for you.
Welcome to the Worth It podcast. I'm Megan Taylor, coach for the brilliant minds and the rare ones who are always growing. I have helped ambitious women and men, business owners and leaders from around the world with defining and expanding their unique work, having the relationship that they actually want, and creating the life that makes all of the work feel worth it. Every week on the podcast, we discuss the key pivots that I coach my clients on and the real work required in order to be a leader and the woman or the man that you're here to be. With that, let's get started. Today's podcast interview is with my 3-year client, Ruthie Cease. Ruthie hired me at a time when she needed help in the behind the scenes of her business to be able to really streamline her processes, policies, her offerings, and to hire the right team so that she could work less and make money in an easier way, and to be of high service to her clients while also still having time and energy left over for her husband and for her 2 boys. We also worked a lot on her leadership development, and Ruthie is really honest about the boundaries that she needed to wrestle with so that she could really start calling in and serving a higher level client, and also evolve her brand away from Reiki, specifically letting go of $250,000 in revenue and evolving towards love leadership. Ultimately making that leap was what allowed her to hit her 100K month, which she had done before, but she hadn't done it in a way where she was doing work that was aligned and working with the clients that she really wanted to. So this was a huge success for her. If you know that you are here to really take a hard look at your relationship with your work and your boundaries with your work and with your clients as well, you're going to love this episode. Here we go. Ruthie Cease is a longtime client of mine. We worked together for 3 years. She's been running her coaching business for 11 years. And in the last 2 years has made over $1 million.
Yeah.
Ruthie, in addition to being a multi-6-figure business owner, is also a mama to 2.
Yeah.
And a wife, and also a bodybuilder.
I don't know about that. I'm such an amateur, but yes, I do bodybuild.
Ruthie also is a worship leader at church, right?
Yeah.
So I hope that's a thorough introduction. Is there anything else that you'd like to share to introduce yourself?
No, that's it. That's pretty cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. So Ruthie and I first started working together back in 2021.
Yeah, actually, Megan came on as a COO of my business. So she was like helping me do a lot of cleanup on the back end of systems and processes and really get these foundations structurally sound so that I could grow and scale pretty quickly. And that role eventually shifted into I don't know, whatever you call yourself now.
Yeah, I mean, I call myself all kinds of things, but I think a lot of the work what we were doing was a lot of leadership coaching.
Oh, it was 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and empowering you into the role of CEO, including getting you the right team, and also really revisiting your offerings as well to make sure that they were offerings that really were in alignment with who you were becoming.
It's interesting, just reflecting back on that, how much of the work that we did shaped the work that I do now. Has been really kind of cool to just see that unfold.
Can you share more about that?
Well, I mean, as you know, but your audience might not know, there's a really big legacy that I have committed to making in this industry of changing the way leadership is done and really prioritizing leadership as the catalyst for growth in your life, in your relationships, but also in your business. The movement has been love leadership, and it starts with you and your own sense of love leadership, leading yourself first, and it trickles down into everything else. Your clients, your relationships, your children, your friends, your team, your audience, your industry, your mission. And that's really like the work that I've been doing with clients the past 3 or 4 years has all come down to being a better leader in your
Mhm.
own life and in your business. And when you can lead yourself in your life, you can lead yourself in your business.
So can you share a little bit more about like what were some of the cleanup areas, shall we say, that you took care of when it came to your life and in your business that allowed you to be like the poster face, and the leader of this love leadership movement? What were some of the shifts that you made?
Oh my gosh, I'm still making a lot. I feel like the work is never done, because when you're committed to being in business for the long haul, and you are, uh, it doesn't really matter how long you've been in business. You could be in business for 2 weeks, 10 years, 20 years. It's always going to be a mirror for the things you need to clean up, especially when you run an online business. Mostly because we put our hearts out on our sleeves on social media, and it's a cutthroat place, especially with the rise of cancel culture and keyboard warriors and TikTok and virality. Is that how you say it? Virality. Where like you could have one reel or 50 reels do only reach 100 people, and then you do one and you don't exactly know what you did because you only spent 5 minutes on it. But that one weird reel goes viral, and all of a sudden there's all these eyes on you. You feel like you're under the thumb of society and the industry, and it can be a lot. And so some of the biggest things that I had to work on was, I want to say, like, something that pops up into my mind is boundaries, because I was never really modeled that or taught about them at all. And that's typically because my parents didn't have them at all, really. I don't think my
Yeah.
mom knew what it meant to even have a boundary or set a boundary or enforce a boundary without, well, mostly because she had 10 children, and that just wasn't a reality for her to be able to have a life outside of her children, or have work life balance or mom life and life balance or whatever. So, and then I watched my mom just not be able to really like hold all that. But I struggled a lot as a teenager to love myself and to be okay with who I am, and to be okay with being set apart and being different. I was born with a congenital heart defect, and I always thought that made me a problem or defective. And so I struggled with being okay with being different, a lot of my like young life. And it caused me to rebel a lot. And then, like I was introduced to alcohol, and when I was like 16, and that was a real struggle.
Hmm.
Having limitations and boundaries with things that made me feel things that were good or made me not feel at all. And when I started to clean that up, I didn't actually get to the root cause of the issue, which is I feel like a problem no matter what I do. Even though I've been sober for so long, the addictive behavior still transferred over into my business. And I struggled with boundaries, with like overworking, letting people walk all over me, being accessible, asserting
Hmm.
boundaries, being okay with people being pissed at me for asserting boundaries, making changes mid program and then not feeling like I'm being disruptive or
Not wanting to be a problem.
not wanting to be a problem. So just making sure that everybody was happy, and then being the like poster child for my coaches, like making sure that I was the
Yeah.
star client and always going above and beyond to like give them a great testimonial or like get the great results so that they get to, get recognition. It was like, don't ever be a problem. right? And then that
Yeah.
also led to a lot of things in the industry, just running a business in general, of like, well, if I don't want to be a part of the problem, then I need to highlight that I'm not for the problem. I need to take a side. And then people will know I'm not actually a part of the problem because I'm against it.
Mm-hmm.
So the more vocal I am, the more I complain about injustices, the more I call
Mm-hmm.
out injustices, the more I'm not a part of the problem. But it actually just contributed to the
I
whiny
calling
and
in
not
clients who resonated with the problem instead of with the
problem.
solution.
Yes. And that was a huge thing that happened to me in 2020. So I ended up calling in 2020 and 2021 a lot of clients who were just mirroring back to me that stance. They weren't actually like super empowered people in general. There was a lot of codependency. And that leads to like the second thing is that I had to really break codependent behaviors. Needing you to tell me that that offer looks good or that post looks good or these pictures look awesome or
Yeah.
mirroring back or reflecting back or
Yeah.
sharing, just like constantly getting approval from other people.
Sometimes I would, but sometimes when it starts getting excessive, it's like, okay, but what do you think? What is
Mm-hmm.
resonating for you right now? What do you want to say right now? Because when you're caught, and I'm sorry for interrupting, I want to jump in on this because, you've worked with multiple mentors in the past, not just with me. And when you have so many voices in your head, including wondering how people are interpreting you online, it
Oh,
can be
yeah.
easy to get caught up in what is expected of me. And if hanging out in the background, you have this old narrative of I'm a problem, all of a
Yeah.
sudden you start losing your own voice and your own
Ex-
expression.
And that's exactly what happened was the more that I put my mentors on a pedestal, the more I wanted their opinion and validation, and the less I differentiated. So I
Yeah.
had this really big wake up call in 2021 where, a friend of mine was basically like, girl, your photos look just like your mentors. Your content sounds just like hers. And I was like, fuck. And I got really triggered by it. And I shut down for a while. And I eventually had a conversation with my mentor, and she's like, I don't feel like that at all. And I also see like where you could differentiate, and not because I don't think that what you're putting out is great, but because I want to see you be yourself. Right. And it was really nice. So, anyway, yeah, I think those are the three things. It was like boundaries,
Yeah.
and then coming back to breaking the chains of codependency and differentiating. I mean, I had to really basically go, why did I even like branch out and start doing money coaching? It was like, because someone told me if you do health and fitness, relationships, business, or money, you'll always make money. If that's your niche, you'll always make money. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go do that. And
Yeah.
so I've kind of come back to, and you saw me, you walked me through this like evolution of coming back to the wealthy or the rebel soul, and like coming back to myself and being fully myself. It was like a reclamation, and it was so
Totally.
awesome to have experienced what I don't want and the opposite, and then come back to myself. And that's been the thing, is like that happens all the time. And that's the evolution of self leadership, is that you're going to lose your way, right? But with the right people in your corner, having these harder conversations with honest with people who are honest and want to see you win, you will always be able to come back to the truth of who you are.
Can you share? I want to go back to what you were saying about the three things you were mentioning about boundaries. Can you share a little bit more about like the specific boundaries that really needed cleanup for you? I know, I'm sorry to just like dig right in there.
Yes, boundaries around a lot of things. Extended payment plans was a really big one. I would make these crazy payment plans for people, and then they would just never finish them. And you
Yeah.
were so gun ho about me not doing that. And so I set a limit with myself. I said, okay, if I'm going to do an extended payment plan, it's only going to be for a year. It's not going to be for 36 months. And I realized like I just didn't want to be tied to people for that long. And most of the people who took advantage of those accommodations were also not people who would finish them. I never got paid the full amount. Let's just say that. So
Yeah.
that was a big one.
And they also were people who they weren't doing the work really.
Right.
So they weren't
Right.
getting
Which
the
is part of
results.
why they weren't able to make the payments. Right. Because
Exactly.
they were very like wishy-washy, not all, they were like
Yeah.
a toe in instead of all in.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, your desire to do these extended payment plans, I think it really did come from a place of love where it's like you wanted to meet people where you were at, you've been in places before where you have struggled with things and you wanted to be able to provide accommodations from a place of generosity. And I think
Exactly.
your business has been built off of service and generosity for a long time.
100%.
So I'm just curious, when you decided to like pull that boundary in and decide to only have payment plans that were the length of the program, or shorter, I'm curious, how were you able to maintain or even make your level of service even stronger as a result of doing that?
Well, my attention wasn't split because I wasn't worried about getting paid.
Yeah.
Um, right. So
Good
that
one.
was a big one.
Yeah.
But I stopped worrying about pissing people off. Like
Mm,
there's someone else out there who could do the same work, not as good as me, but they could do the same, they could teach you some of the same stuff. And I guess what it came down to was what really helped me get through it is like nobody's going to do this work the way that I'm going to do it and make you feel held and loved and seen in the way that I'm going to do it. And if you aren't willing to throw some skin in the game for 12 months or 6 months to be able to invest in that level of love, then I'm not for you.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what
Exactly.
ultimately like what it came down to. And I like there was just this thought of there's someone else out there for them, and I'll just pray that they find that person. But I can't be that for everybody. And I'm not, I think we said this one time, like I'm not a homeless shelter for coaches. This isn't a charity
Yeah.
case. This
Yeah,
is
I
a
think I said you're not the 7-Eleven of coaching.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or the
Yeah.
Smiths or the Bonds or the Safeway or whatever.
No,
Like, no, we want to be the Whole Foods.
the
And
Whole
I don't
Foods
even
of
need to be a
coaching.
Whole Foods. I could be QFC and be fine. Like,
Well, yeah, and it's not about the financial. I mean, obviously, having working with a higher level
mm,
client, they can tend to and want to invest at a higher rate, but it's more so about their level of commitment to the work.
exactly. And that was the
Yeah.
thing was like, this is the running issue in my business for the last even 11 years is like, I've always been way more committed
Yeah.
than the client. And I feel like that in a lot of relationships too is like friendships. Like I'm the one that reaches out. I'm the one that says good morning. I'm the one that goes above and beyond. I'm the one that flies out to see them. I'm the one that, helps out or uh yeah, I found that in a lot of like female friendships. Like I'm the one that's always more committed than the other person.
Yeah.
And in some relationships, you have to be that. Like with me and my 13-year-old son, like, hello,
Sure.
I'm the adult. Yes, duh. But in a contractually agreed relationship where you're there to provide a service and the client is there to receive a service, it's a different kind of reciprocity and commitment that you have to step into. And I think I've just entered this era in like the last like 6 months where like I'm not willing to be more committed than you.
Hmm.
I'm going to be like committed like you've never seen. I will slide into your Telegram when and be like, is everything okay? I haven't heard from you in a couple days or a week or a week and a half. Is everything all right? Like you haven't checked in. I will be like that. I will be like, I will send you stuff for your birthday. I will send you gifts. Like, not because I'm trying to win you, but because that's just the type of person that I am. And
Yeah.
I am a gift giver. Like I love that shit. But I had to stop being more committed and more all in than clients. And that also meant I had to be okay with them being pissed about that, because what that actually set them up to do is take personal responsibility. And that might mean that they actually don't get results and they've invested in a $28,000 container, but they aren't getting the results that they want. But that doesn't mean that I'm not showing up
Right.
to deliver the service I said I would. It
Right.
means that there's some shit out of whack and there's some things that the person has to clean up. But I think there's this narrative in the coaching industry that if you're not making, if you sign up or you throw this like amount of money down to work with a coach, that your income should inevitably go up because you've
Hmm.
made that investment. Like I've seen people say the bigger the investment, the bigger the results. And I just think that's a load of crap and total false hope, because that puts a lot of pressure on the coach too to make sure the client gets the result.
Yeah.
I just don't agree with that.
Well,
Anyways,
and to your point, sometimes sometimes the initial benefit is not monetary. It's seeing like,
no.
oh, I have some things to clean up, I have some places to grow, and the money comes way later down the line. Like if I can jump back, I think about, when you decided to shift away from Wealthy Healer, for example,
Yeah.
right? There's a huge realignment there where you actually let go of a big chunk of what was your
Yeah.
recurring revenue, right? But with that, with letting that go and really getting it into integrity with yourself, with where you wanted to lead your company and the return to Rebel Soul as a brand and Love Leadership as kind of your main like flagship or your main focus.
Uh-huh.
Right. It took time for you to like steer the ship in a new direction and evolve the brand. But later, the money ended up coming back around, but it was aligned money this time. Right.
100%. Yeah.
Can you share more about what that was like for you?
It was terrifying. It
Yeah.
was terrifying, mostly because I put my identity in that program, and it became like I had this I did rounds and cohorts like 2 to 3 times a year, and then it was just developing at a rapid pace. And there were changes that were happening, but it was making me a lot of money. And I hit a point in my like spiritual relationship with God and my faith that it just wasn't aligned anymore. And I had experienced a lot of I'll just put it as like spiritual warfare is the best way to put it. When you open up yourself to the world of energetics like that, you make yourself and you say, I'm good with whatever comes, or I can handle whatever. You really can't. And I opened myself up to that, and I became very vulnerable to infiltration. So
Yeah.
something would take me over,
Mm.
and I couldn't really function.
Yeah. Well, you were
And it was
opening yourself to serving a wide variety of people who were all looking to make more money in their business. And
with trauma. They wanted to specifically work with healing and trauma. And
right.
when we focus on the healing and the trauma, it's not a bad thing. But when you're trying to monetize trauma, you and it's not the way to go about it. So I was
Yeah.
just calling in people with not a different heart posture. Let's just put it that way.
Hmm.
That's the way to put it. Their heart wasn't in the place that it needed to be a wealthy healer, but also it just wasn't aligned with my value system and my faith anymore. And so I decided to put that down. But that meant like feeling like I had to explain myself to clients who had already in like I had people who paid for Reiki Master, and I was like, I'm not doing Reiki Master anymore. You'll be the last person I do this for, like to train or whatever. And they're like, why? And then feeling like I had to explain. Not I never felt like I had to justify, but I didn't want to cause I didn't want to trauma bond. I don't know, I just felt like I had to tread lightly, but I also had to be okay with that money going away.
Yeah.
And I also felt like so tired from just like At the same time, my husband's animation business was going under. I became the sole provider. I was working my ass off. I mean, I'm a hard worker, but I was working my butt off. And I was so terrified and I was clinging to the income not dipping that it started to dip. And it was terrifying. It was
Yeah.
terrifying.
How much money was that program bringing in?
It was between 200 and 250K a year between
And
the actual level 1 and 2 trainings and the meat of the program, and then master training. And then some people would just do master virtually and some people would do it with the retreat. So like
um,
over the span of like 2 years, I think it brought in close to 400K. It was just really, it was like I was saying, I was grieving. I was saying goodbye to a lot of different kinds of people. I was saying goodbye to that version of me, but I clung to that until I decided to stop clinging to it because what we cling to controls us.
you ended up deciding to bring back a focus on leadership specifically, right?
Yeah, love leadership. Yep.
Yeah. So, Love Leadership was the name of your mastermind back in the day. You brought it back. Can you share a bit more about kind of the pivotal moment or whatever you would like to share about what invited Love Leadership back in, where you decided to actually create a whole series of programs and including a new mastermind focused on love
Mhm.
leadership specifically, and the huge launch that came out of that as well.
I don't know if you know this about me, but for any like corporate job or retail or restaurant job that I've ever had, I've always been set apart as the leader of the department. And I've always been invested in by the company to be developed as a leader. So I mean, that happened at Best Buy, at Maggiano's, at when I was at out, like everywhere I've ever worked, CH Robinson, like all these companies, they've always seen me as something special and taken the time to invest in me to be a better leader for the company. So I have a real passion for developing leaders and watching people grow and asking hard questions and encouraging people to immerse themselves in hard shit because I feel like that's where we really thrive. And I also feel like that's what God put me on this planet to do, to be a vessel for heart transformation, to be a vessel for change, for to be a vessel for other
Yeah.
people's development and transformation.
So I don't know if you've heard, but I have apparently gone temporarily crazy and decided to offer free 45-minute private phone calls with me. These phone calls are my Beyond Success calls. This is an opportunity for leaders, business owners who have already created a certain level of success and you're ready to take it up a notch, take it to the next level. This is an opportunity for you to come in and talk with me. If you're somebody who has been following me for a while, you know that you're interested in working with me someday, or you've been curious and you want to have a conversation and come and receive what I have to offer. So this 45 minutes is an opportunity for you to come in and to be able to share how you're really feeling about your work, how you're really feeling about your relationships, how you're really feeling overall. Because when else do you have the opportunity to do that without wondering if somebody's thinking, well, what do you have to complain about? I know that you've already created a certain level of success, and there might be times where you feel like there's just this next level that you can't quite reach. And one of my main geniuses is being able to see the patterns that are showing up in various areas of life. So you're able to come in and talk to me about anything that's currently coming up. Main focus with my clients tends to be on next level passion in your career in terms of impact, as well as your next level of revenue, deeper relationships, and creating a life that feels rich and fulfilling for you overall. So if that sounds like something that you want to talk to me about, reach out to me on Instagram as soon as possible, because I really don't know how long I'm going to be making these calls free. And message me the words Beyond Success, and we can talk about getting you scheduled.
when I started this mastermind, it was at the very beginning. The first round started in January 2020, went through the pandemic, and ended in December 2020. And what a time to run your very first six, 5-figure mastermind. What it was what amazing and wild. And I had 4 ladies go through that and then had 2 retreats. It was just awesome. I loved it. And I was very close with a lot of those women. And then I opened up the second round about midway through, and that's kind of when you started to jump in about 9 months through that round. You jumped in March of 2021 on the team, and you kind of started helping me see through those clients and supporting me to support them. And then we had cohort 3, and then cohort 4, and cohort 5. Actually, cohort 5 I didn't even do, but there was one. By the time we were in October of 2021, we had a cohort with, it started out with 9, and it turned down to be 6. By October of 2021, we were doing the first retreat for cohort 3. And it was very challenging. It was very, the energy was just, and what I mean by this is, the energy was just very chaotic. It was very, the group of women was very dynamic. There were a lot of different personalities. Some people clashed, some people withdrew. It was kind of hard to facilitate and manage because some people's behaviors was just all over the place and it was inappropriate. But there were some things that had happened that was so traumatizing. And I kind of come to the realization that some very unethical, boundary pushing, edge pushing decisions were happening with particular mastermind clients that put my business at risk. And it caused me to lose my shit, quite literally. And just not like have a breakdown, but like got really angry that someone would have the audacity to put another person's business at risk. And it caused me to like really go, how did I contribute to this? Well, and I had to like really put a shit ton of boundaries in place. I had to remove people. I struggled with regaining confidence after that. I took a long time to get over that. And because it was so traumatic, and because I felt like I contributed so much to that by allowing people in and making accommodations and meeting people where they're at when they were not people who should have been in a high level mastermind like that because they weren't ready to do their shit. But I believed in them so much and I wanted it so badly for them
Yeah.
that I was like almost like willing to do whatever it took to like make sure they got a transformation. So I put myself on the line. I put my marriage on the line. I put my dignity on the line. I put my confidence on the line. And it was awful. And not only did it impact me very heavily, it impacted my team. I had you and I had 3 other people who are very, very near and dear to my heart. And you had voiced like, I'm going to take a break from coming to retreats for a little bit. And then I could just tell like the dynamic wasn't as strong anymore. And it took people a minute to rebound. And I thought, my inability to hold that boundary and that standard for myself around who's allowed into my space and has access to me in this intimate way has not only impacted me, my husband, my children, but my people that I love. Because of that level of shame, whew, I like swung in the opposite direction and was like, I don't want to have anything to do with love leadership. Changing the mastermind, we're changing the name, we're going hard. And my energy did shift. It was a wall that popped up, and I built it very quickly, very firmly. I dyed my hair red. I went like, my whole demeanor went from like soft, open, loving, feminine, like, but
Yeah.
still take no shit to don't F with me.
Yeah. Hard.
Hard. And it was like all right. What ended up happening is I started to attract more people who were edgy and all in and like, yeah, let's do this. I'm so whatever it takes. They were like, they mirrored back that part of me because I'm very much like that,
Yeah.
but I'm more soft than anything. Like I'm very
Yeah.
sensitive. I'm very I care a lot
Yeah.
and sometimes almost to my detriment.
And you also started focusing more on business strategy.
So I swung in this whole other opposite direction and after and that direction made me $500,000 in 11 months.
Yeah.
So I was
You're really
like,
good at
cool.
business.
Yeah, but it was also like the energetics of it all. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stop doing like healings and I'm going to just really focus on like the inner work and not worry about energy work and all of that. And I've always talked about inner work. I've always done inner work. I've always felt like that was really important. Mindset, therapy type inner work, root cause, behavioral action, mindset, all of those things. Because I have exclusive training like in somatics and that stuff really it's cool. I think it's cool. And just to see how like it all plays out. And so after I retired the wealthy healer, I went through a really unfortunate breakup with a mentor that I was with for a couple of years. And I saw in real time how much a lack of self leadership and personal responsibility and self awareness can hurt your business because I was the client who was like, ew, not okay. I was the
Yeah.
client who was like in this relationship with a mentor and there were all of the like the roles flipped. I was paying to be in this space and be supported, but I was treated like a BFF. There was a lot of gossip that was happening. There was a lot of talking about other clients to me. There was also like a role reversal that happened when we were in person that had me go full freaking stop, not okay, not cool, completely inappropriate. And that made me realize just how freaking important the under like the whole concept of love leadership starts with having self-awareness and leading yourself first so that we don't get into these situations and
Yeah.
that people don't get hurt.
And
um
you were
yeah,
one of the ones who got hurt, or rather was, I don't know if you got hurt, but you were mishandled as a client. And I remember you telling me about this and really wrestling with how to handle it, what to do. The mastermind was almost over and
yeah,
all of
we
this
were
stuff.
5 months in and it was only 6 months long,
You
so I
were
had like
almost
one
done.
payment left.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you're like, okay, maybe I just continue to receive what I can from this space. But I was like, Ruthie, it sounds like this is really important to you. Like this is coming up for a reason. And you wrestled with it a little bit more and you're like, you know what? Yeah, I need to do something about this.
yeah, I mean the same thing happened in 2020 where like at the beginning of the pandemic there was some really shady shit that was going down,
Yeah,
and someone in our personal life was manipulating clients, sleeping with clients, breaching their contract, and it was
yeah.
completely unethical. And then I remember taking it to Andy and just being like, what do I do? Do I make a statement? Do I acknowledge this behavior? Do I take a side? Like, and she was like, no, I wouldn't do anything right now. And I was like, well, I can't sit back and do nothing. And that's when it was like, okay, well, if we really want to see change in the industry, like, I can't just sit back and be silent. And I also can't just sit back and be like, oh, that's okay. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Because ultimately, like, at the end of the day, this is my monkey. This is my circus if I choose to be a part of this industry.
And what I saw you do was take that challenge and you actually turned it into a whole new movement.
Oh, I totally did. I
So,
had the difficult conversation with this person. It severed the relationship. That was my one and only time I've ever broken contract with a mentor. And I don't like even saying that, but it's the truth. Like, it was, there was no way in hell I was going to pay that last $3,000 knowing the shit that I knew.
Yeah.
No way, no way. Completely unethical. The things I saw, the things I heard, no way. And that stuff
Yeah.
doesn't actually like that it doesn't leave you. You're like it's like little scars. So I was like, well, I'm definitely not going to sit here and mope about this shit. I have to do something. And so I created a mastermind called 40K Leader. It's since then been renamed, but it was about seeing yourself as a leader, being recognized as a leader and being paid as a leader. And we did a lot of work around identity. And then what happens when you start to get recognized is you get more visible, right? So how do we navigate that? How do we create impeccable client experiences that keep people coming back for more? And then how do we actually shift from coach to CEO?
Mhm.
And because the coach is easy, but like you could show up all day and like talk and facilitate change for so many people and ask questions all day. But when that person receives 6 months of support from you and then refuses to pay you, how are you going to
Right.
take the coach hat off and put the CEO hat on and handle your shit?
That's the thing about running a multi six figure to seven figure coaching business is it's not just about being a coach and creating that client experience, but it's also about managing your team, manage the behind the scenes of how you're going to manage your payments, your pricing, all of these things. And you have to be able to have a backbone to be able to have these types of conversations. And what I saw you do over the years was develop these skill sets in setting boundaries and getting clear about how you wanted to set up your business, but then using all of that hard gained knowledge to turn around and train others in that so that
Yep.
your programs could be an answer to the very problem that you experienced in the hands of, coaches who haven't had those types of training.
Yeah.
So,
And here's the thing, there's so many amazing business coaches in the industry who can teach you how to make 10K months.
right,
They can teach you how to make 10K, 20, 40, 500, right? Like they could teach you how to make the money, but can they teach you how to hold it, make
right.
more, keep it, maintain it, keep your clients? Can they teach you how to navigate the internal relationship with yourself when you go from 50K months to 10K months? This is the gap that is missing that I'm working my butt off to fill
Yeah. I
because
couldn't,
well, I just feel like that's the thing that I've been seeing with so many clients in the industry or in my world who came into 40K Leader who were like, this was so helpful because it wasn't the strategy that I needed. It was the self leadership that I needed to be able to get to this place of really changing the way that I see myself so that I can have and hold more.
Exactly, because you can hand out strategies for people all day in your sleep. You
Like
know how to do
freaking
that,
candy.
right? But the thing is if people don't have the self-leadership inside of themselves, they can't hold it, they can't lead others towards it. The business falls apart over time. They also aren't able to manage their team members effectively. And I think, one of the reasons why you're somebody who's so prepared to teach on these topics is because you've struggled with this personally. You've gone down on your entrepreneurial journey, you've gone down the route of, I just need the right strategy that's going to fix
Yeah.
it. Or I just need to, do this energy healing, try some Reiki, that's going to address it. And it's at the end of the day, it's like where the rubber
Yeah.
meets the road. It's like, are you being an integrity? Are you being self accountable? Are you running a business from a place of service and genuinely wanting to help change lives? Or are you doing it for the money? And I think you've actually really wrestled with this in a very honest way. And
Yeah.
I'll say suffered through it as well. And out the other side of that came a realization of what actually matters when it comes to business and running a business that's sustainable and that makes, a positive impact while also bringing in cash. Because when you brought love leadership back in as like the spearhead or the focus of your business now, when you came out with 40K Leader among a couple of other programs you were running, that was 100K month.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I sold 7 different offers though. And anytime I've had a 6-figure month, it's always been because everything sells everything, right? That mastermind was gravely underpriced. I
Yeah.
think it was like $700 for people coming
Yeah.
out of my big ticket mastermind. And then pre-sale was like,
Right.
1,200 and then or not or 1,000. And then I think the most I charged for it was like 2,900 for six
But you
months.
got a lot of new people in your world, and most importantly, the types of clients that you actually wanted to work with.
Yes, 100%
And that was the thing that you had been working on solving for years.
for
You know,
years.
you got to this place of like actually taking a stand for the type of work that you wanted to do and getting paid for it and calling in the types of clients that are actually getting results. Like I've been seeing, the testimonials coming out of the results of the clients, and that's because they're the right types of clients for the right type of work you actually want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it just took me some time to like figure that out. I really
Yeah.
struggled with that for a long time because
Yeah.
I really wanted to, I like really wanted to serve. I really wanted to help people. I really wanted to like make sure that I was doing, a service to people and I was helping. And I didn't want to be a part of the problem. And there are problems in the industry like people charging astronomical amounts of money for people to just be in their energy. And now, look, I believe there is like a psychological phenomenon to, um, you know, you become the people you hang out with. Yeah, but the way that it's marketed is so harmful and it's just not useful. It could be done better. I don't think I'm ever going to be someone who will ever charge $10,000 to $20,000 a month to work with me. I'm not sure I'll ever be that, but I definitely will never charge what I used to charge in the way that
Yeah.
I would do it. So I had to learn, and I also had to learn that like part of doing business really well means like having options for people. So it might be the right person, but they can't afford the price. And maybe that makes them wrong or not a fit at that moment because they can't afford it. But if you have something you can downsell them into, then you're still going to get their business.
Yeah,
And
and they get
that's
and they get served at the level they're prepared to invest.
exactly
Yeah.
right. So we need to stop saying things like, well, if they can't afford it, then they're not the right client. It's like, well,
Yeah.
obviously that offer is just not the fit for them because it doesn't match their financial capacity at this time. That doesn't make it bad. It just is what it is. But you won't lose the sale if you have other things. And for me, the way that 100K month came out was like it was just a series of
Mhm.
a ton of different offers.
Yeah, and creating options for people to plug in where they're at.
Mhm.
Well, I know you don't need me to be proud of you, but I'm super proud of just all the pivots you've made to get to this point to do really important, meaningful work. I mean, you know what a big fan I am of the inner work,
Mhm.
and this offering that you're doing and the way that you are helping women change their lives and change their businesses is incredible. I would love to know, what were the things that I challenged you on the most that served and
You would
supported
make me so mad sometimes and be like, go.
you? Yeah, can we talk about that?
I think it was when you wouldn't give me the answer I wanted. So like you make me work for it. Like
Yeah.
you would make me work internally. And my whole life I had people just giving things to me easily. And like, it's okay, don't worry. Like you crashed the car in a DUI, no problem. We'll bail you out. We'll get the new car. Not a big deal. Not really punished for that. I was never
Yeah.
really challenged. Like I was a voice major in college, and I can remember being my senior year, the standard, if you're a voice major or performance major, you have to do like a 3 hour recital with your instrument, and all of your pieces have to be memorized. So that could be anywhere from 10 to 12 pieces of music, all classical, all like traditional opera or whatever. And it needed to be memorized. And I didn't memorize mine, but the girl that I did the recital with, we did like a duet recital. She had to do it. She had to memorize it, but I didn't.
Yeah.
So I was always the exception for everybody, and you never made exceptions for me. And I think that would sometimes really piss me off because I'm like, I don't want, just give me the shortcut. Like, I don't want to actually work hard for that right now. I'm working hard doing other things. Could you just tell me the thing already? Like, you know, feed me and tell me I'm pretty and let's move on.
Yeah. Hey, I still tell you that you're pretty.
I
But
don't know.
what did like actually wrestling with these things, even though you were mad at me, what did it give you?
Well, I had to do that. I had to earn it. It wasn't like a earn it to be worthy. It was like I had to actually do the work and not like let someone else do it for me. I don't know. It was like it was just a different experience. It forced me to like actually like I think there was a time when I had asked for feedback and you were like, "Yeah, I can get you feedback, but like I really want you to just sit with, what you think of it." And I'd be like, "Well, I already know what I think of it. That's why I'm asking you what you think of it. Why do you have to do that?" Like I was so annoyed, but I also got it. Like I understood, you know what I'm saying? So it was kind of like,
Yeah. Well, the important part of that was developing your own opinion about what you thought about
for
yourself and your
sure,
own work. And that's way more
for sure.
valuable than like putting my Megan Taylor stamp of approval on one of your posts.
I think it
And
wasn't
at that
even
time.
me. Yeah, I don't even know if I was trying to like get approval. I really just wanted feedback
Yeah.
because at this point, I don't normally have a hard time with content, but because I had so many things that I had to like clean up, one of them being like my addiction to being busy and always having something to do, I didn't have the brain capacity to be creative. So, like,
Yeah.
even if content was something to do, I was still thinking about, oh my God, I have to do this thing to check off the box. So, like, if you're not going to give me the feedback that I asked for, then I can't use this to check off the box.
I
And it was
do.
like, I already know that it's good, but I just need to know how I can make it better.
I totally get that. It's an interesting thing in coaching dynamics. It's like we have to find where sometimes where the rub is and like where the irritation is and go there to see like, is this a place where you're being called to grow? And
Yeah.
sometimes I'm going to end up pissing people off in the process. So,
Totally. And me too. I piss off my clients a lot. I'm sure of it because,
yeah,
but it's all coming from this place of like, I just love you so much that I want to see you, like, no, I want to see you in that full embodiment of your potential. And
yes.
if you need me to tell you that this is good, that's not you living up to your, like, I just, you don't need me to tell you that it's good. You need you
Right.
to tell you that it's good.
Then that's a
Yeah,
part of leadership, right?
totally. But sometimes we do just need people to be like, dude, bomb, here's the thing I would make it better.
Absolutely. I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit more about some of the things that you're offering right now. But before we transition to that, is there anything else that you wanted to share?
No, just thank you. I don't think that I could be or would be the leader and coach mentor that I am today if I didn't have you walking me through all of the like those 3 years. Like it was such a pivotal time and it like just shaped me so much. I remember there's just so many like core memories from that, like core business memories of just like, oh, I know exactly how handle this, or I know exactly what Megan would say to do, or I know exactly, you know what I'm saying? And so just like, thank you. I don't even know. It really just comes back down to, your skills in leadership development have really sharpened. It's like iron sharpens iron.
I just loved working with you because you're so sharp and you're so smart and you have such a good heart and you're such a hard worker and you just never give up. You never stopped trying. You never stopped being willing to look. You've never stopped fighting for finding the truth. And sometimes it takes time. But seeing where you are now, I see how much more connected you are with yourself and also with the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I think this like big full circle moment of like coming back to Love Leaders Rising
Right?
is like it's like not about the phoenix rising kind of people. It's about the people who are up and rising, like constantly up and rising.
You earned
Yeah,
that.
I feel like I did.
You walked through the fire of figuring out how do you navigate these different client situations? How do you hold yourself as a leader, but also keep an open heart throughout? And I think you really had to go through all of the trials that you can now guide all of your clients through. And as you do. So I would love to
Yeah.
share for those who are interested in getting plugged into your world and learning more about opportunities to connect with you and your work. Like, what do you have coming up now, and how can people get in touch?
I have a lot of different ways that you could work with me. You can always send me a message on Instagram at XO the Rebel Soul, or you can find me on Facebook at Ruthie Cease. But the up and coming program is the Leadership Up Level, and that is it's a mastermind somewhere between 4 and 6 months, probably going to be about 6 months, and the entire premise of it is to get you seen, paid, or seen, recognized, and paid as the leader that you are. And it starts with the inner work and then the external work and then the embodiment work. This is the space where you take off your coach hat and you put on your CEO hat.
Hey, let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
I'm super stoked about it. Inside, we go through anything from building your business from a place of capacity versus building your business from a place of tolerance. We go over uncoupling business trauma, attachment styles, breaking addictive behavior, product suites, and messaging that supports 40K months, 40K cash months. And the aim isn't to make 40K months. The aim is to be able to hold to be able to support that so that when it happens, you're not like a total shit, like,
Yeah, right.
because so many people take on clients who are like, I just want to make the money, but then they don't know how to actually, they don't have the infrastructure on the inside to hold it, and they don't have the infrastructure in their business to hold it. So they don't have policies and procedures. They don't have support for payment failures or payment modifications or people ghosting you. They don't have those things set up on their infrastructure. They also don't have a product suite to support everything, selling everything. And their messaging is all over the place. And so we really work to create the infrastructure in the business and the infrastructure in the person to be able to create that money, but then hold that money and do it all from a place of powerful leadership.
It's like how
Yeah.
to hold yourself as the CEO and the leader and being prepared for that, not only on the inside, but also in the business infrastructure.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It just
Okay.
requires an entire leadership up level, right? So
Yeah.
like when you start to see your business as a company and not just a thing you do to make money and help people, but you start to see it as a company, you start to treat content like you're running the marketing department. You
Mhm.
start to treat your payments like you're the head of the finance department. There's the branding and the client experience, and you start to create a little bit of division in a good way to have all these departments, because you would never have like the marketing department be the head of the marketing department isn't going to go over to the head of the financial department and be like, I think I'm going to run the show today. We need to be able to like separate things and know when we're being called to like lead the different parts of our business. And if we constantly have the coach hat on, we're going to constantly see through the lens of really just trying to help people. And we can't build incredible multi-million dollar businesses from the lens of, I really like, we can, but our hearts get in the way. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what happens when the heart isn't like, we're not doing the heart work, if we're not doing the inner work, then we make those decisions from the lens of trauma, past versions of ourselves, clients who fucked us over, identities we're still clinging to, behaviors that don't serve us. And so this mastermind is where we do all of that work, and it's pretty big.
That's huge. And you know it well because you've walked it.
I'm still walking it. I don't think we'll ever be done walking it. No, because we're in the business of relationships and people, and we all hurt each other and we're all flawed and we all have stuff and we all project and we all have wants and we all have desires and we all get in each other's way. And like, this stuff is inevitable. We have to learn how to lead. We have to learn how to lead because that's what's ultimately going to create the change, right? So
I couldn't agree with you more. Business is relationships, and relationship starts with ourselves. It's a very complex topic. Well, for those who want to get plugged into Ruthie's world, you know how to reach her, and I'll include that in the show notes. Ruthie, thanks for being such a badass and such an example of somebody who just
I love you.
tells it how it is and is just lays it all out, because like that's the only way that we're ever going to get anywhere is if we're really honest, you know? And so thanks for being the example.
That's what I said. I was like, we're never going to get anywhere in this industry if we can't be honest with each other and be like, hey, bro, like, you're coming onto my mastermind. You're supposed to guest speak. You're not supposed to pitch your mastermind. Like, come on, man. You know, like, we need to be more honest with each other. And so I want to be part of stuff like that, you know? You got to stop being so afraid. Anyways, that's a whole other thing.
Okay. we might need to do a part 2.
Part 2. Let's do it.
Hi, lovely. Really quick before you go, it would mean the absolute world to me if you found value in today's episode, if you would take a minute to leave a 5-star review for the podcast. This is going to help other powerhouses like you to be able to find it. Also, I love interacting with my listeners, so I would love to know more about what you thought about today's episode. If you take a screenshot and share it to your Instagram stories and tag @MeganWTaylor, it's going to notify me, and I actually love to reshare your posts with my audience as well. With that, thank you so much for being a listener, and I'm wishing you a beautiful, productive, happy, sexy, lucrative week, and I will see you on the next episode.